What's going on, everyone? Ronan here, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are excited because this what if is moving fast and we are reaching the conclusion very quickly. But before we get into that, I'm gonna need you guys to take a look at this analytical stat bar right here. You guys already know the drill. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and drop a comment to feed the algorithm. With all that being said, let's get into what if Ash and Paul travel to Unova, Season 2, Part 6. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's story with Paul and Iris as they are on their way to Himalaya City. While the two haven't been traveling that long, they have been able to make great distance as there hasn't really been anything to stop their journey thus far. Well, that is, except for a slight annoyance for the two. Every time that they stop, some of their items appear to go either missing or misplaced in each other's bags. This has caused a couple of brief arguments between Paul and Iris because they started accusing each other of taking things without asking. However, it eventually becomes clear to Paul that when these events happen, the Black Stone is also reacting like there's some sort of imminent danger and they need to be on guard. However, Iris is too stubborn to listen to logic here, and she just continues to berate Paul for taking things out of her bag without asking. This whole experience has continued for several days, wearing on the nerves of both of our traveling heroes. However, Paul has been timing these instances, and he's learned that whenever they happen, the stone resonates for about 10 seconds, and then it dissipates. And that's when whatever happens or is going to happen seems to stop. While the information that they have is very little, whatever it is has the ability to remain transparent to the human eye, which can mean it's only one of two types of Pokemon. So that night, when they start their fire and begin to eat, Ash decides to have one of his Pokemon out with him, in particular Cofagrius, and he has a plan. He just needs to wait and time it. In order not to raise suspicion, he also tells Iris to bring out all of her other Pokemon, as he thinks they should have some time out of their balls. Iris is not against this, however she's curious to why Paul wouldn't bring out his other Pokemon. He just claims that he has some stuff that he wants Cofagrius to do. However, this is odd to Iris, as the ghost type is just in its coffin form, laying there, like it's waiting. However, the wait won't be long. As everyone settles down to eat, Paul can feel the stone starting to resonate in his jacket pocket. Without hesitation, he declares, "Now, Cofagrius, flood the area with shadow balls." Suddenly, the ghost type springs to life, doing as its trainer commands. While Iris and her Pokemon think Paul is crazy for doing this as they dodge the shadow balls that are randomly being fired about, he watches carefully for any sign that something is hit. Then, a slight burst of energy, followed by a cry of pain, is caught from the corner of his eye. "Cofagrius, there," Paul declares. In the blink of an eye, the ghost type pounces, jumping on whatever his trainer was pointing at, and then begins to constrict something that squeals in pain. However, neither Paul nor Iris can see what this thing is. Iris thinks Paul is crazy and Cofagrius is wasting his time. That is, until Paul tells Cofagrius to use a will-o-wisp. As the flames begin to erupt, a brief squealing can be heard as Cofagrius squeezes tighter and tighter until the squealing stops and something appears bound in the tentacles of the ghost type. "What is that?" Iris says. "The Pokemon that's been causing us so many problems," Paul responds. "Every time that it's tried to do something to us, the stone has resonated. I don't know why, but there may be a link to the two," Paul says as he looks at the unconscious Pokemon. Hours later, Ash and Iris are sitting around the fire. All is quiet as the unconscious Pokemon has been laid into a bed with a little bit of a burn heal to treat the wounds that were caused by Cofagrius. While Iris is concerned for the little thing, Paul, on the other hand, has nothing but questions. He wants to know why this thing has been following them, and more importantly, why it resonates with the stone. At this moment, he finds himself wishing that he was having one of those visions from Zekrom right about now. However, the stone just remains silent, choosing to keep whatever secrets it has for the time being. For their own protection, Cofagrius has remained outside of its Pokeball, on watch over the Pokemon, as they're not really sure if it's friend or foe at this current time. Iris spends majority of the night with Axew, tending to the wounds of the injured Pokemon, while Paul stands guard for any would-be attackers. For all he knows, this thing is not alone. Luckily, when daybreak hits, this mysterious Pokemon starts to stir, waking up first in a panic as it doesn't really know where it's at, not really having much recollection of what happened the day before. That is, until it sees Paul and Cofagrius. Then, it starts to panic even more, turning invisible in an attempt to get away. However, just like a Stoutland, Cofagrius is on it, binding the Pokemon once more, preventing it from escaping. The stress of the situation causes this mysterious Pokemon to pass out once again, leaving Iris and Paul in quite the conundrum. They don't really know what to do with this thing. Paul's first reaction, well, they should probably just leave it. It's wild, and they've already treated its burns. So in a few hours, it should wake up, and it will be just fine. However, Iris doesn't like this idea, telling Paul that they're not that far from Himalaya City, so they could just take it to the Pokemon Center. Reluctantly, Paul allows this, telling Iris that if she wants to bring it, then she's gonna have to carry it. He won't be the one to weigh them down with unnecessary baggage, considering he's got a gym battle to get to. He and Cofferegus then walk off, leaving Iris with Axew and the mysterious Pokemon. Luckily for Iris, she's able to call upon Dragonite, who is willing to give her a hand in carrying the Pokemon so that way she doesn't really have to. And wanting to get a little bit of payback for Paul leaving her behind, Iris asks Dragonite if it can give her a ride to the Pokemon Center that just so happens to be over the next couple of hills. Reluctantly, the dragon allows Iris to mount its back, and off they go, with Iris sticking her tongue out, telling Paul that she'll see him in the city. However, he simply just sighs, recalling Cofferegus, as he doesn't really need to use it as a guard dog anymore, and then continues walking. Now we find ourselves with Giovanni. He patiently awaits on the beach of Himalaya City, as his 3 subordinates have yet to check in with him, as they are on the tail of the next piece to his puzzle to being able to assemble an ultimate weapon. Luckily for Boss Rocket, he won't have to wait long, as he gets word from Jesse and James that what he seeks is actually on his way to the city now. You see, they've been tracking both Iris and Paul since they left Undella Town, as their target is actually the Pokemon that's been playing mischievously with the two, that is now on its way to the infirmary in Himalaya City. Giovanni smiles as he watches Dragonite sail in, knowing that all the pieces are finally in place, and thanks to the kid that's been hunting him, things couldn't have been easier. Now we pick up with Iris as she is waiting inside of the Pokemon Center. This is where Paul walks in, simply ignoring Iris and heading to the counter of the center, to where Nurse Joy's Audino stands, ready to take oncoming travelers. He then turns all of his Pokemon into Audino, telling it that he has a Pokemon battle he needs to get to, so please hurry. The diligent healthcare worker nods as it speeds off with Paul's Pokeballs in order to get the task done as quickly as possible. This is where Iris approaches her friend, telling Paul that that's what he gets for leaving Iris behind. However, he simply retorts the walk that he had was one of the most soothing things he's had since he set out on this journey in Unova, as he didn't really have to deal with anybody. The peace was so calming. While Paul is just trying to have a little bit of fun at Iris's expense, the aspiring Dragon Master doesn't really find this funny, and in turn chooses to yell at him. However, this is interrupted when Nurse Joy comes out to ask for Iris. She tells her that her Meloetta will be fine. However, it was hurt very badly. Does she know what happened to it? This is where Iris corrects the nurse, telling her that it's not her Pokemon, but she does know what happened to it, then pointing to Paul, saying that he was the one who attacked it with his Cofferegus, and he used Will-O-Wisp on it quite intensely. Nurse Joy begins to side-eye Paul, only for the boy to tell her that it was attacking them, so he was only defending him and his Pokemon. However, he does take interest in the fact that Nurse Joy knows what it is, asking what she knows about this Meloetta. Nurse Joy tells Paul that she doesn't really know much. Up until today, it was only a rumored Pokemon said to exist in myths and legends, and one legend in particular said that it was an ancient king's favorite Pokemon, and it sat at the heart of its kingdom with the ability to calm minds or rile spirits, depending on who controlled the reflection of Meloetta. So what does that mean? Paul asks. I don't know, the nurse replies. After all, it's just an old story, something that's been passed down on the eastern half of Unova for many centuries. But what I can say is Meloetta will be fine. It's just gonna need a few days of rest. This is where Iris asks if she can go in and see it, to which Nurse Joy replies that she can. However, Paul's not really interested in this, as Audino has returned with his Pokeballs. He grabs his 6 Pokemon and tells Iris that he's going to the Himalaya gym, as he's got his 7th badge to win. Then after that, they're heading to Absolute City, so that way they can finally meet back up with Ash. Oh, so you're here for a gym battle, Nurse Joy says. Well, you'll be happy to know the gym is pretty easy to find. Just walk down to the beach and look for the battle arena. It'll be right there. It's not really any fancy building or anything like that, as the leader, he doesn't really care about that stuff. He just cares about the thrill of the battle. Paul thanks Nurse Joy and tells Iris that after he's done with this gym battle, he'll be back, and he'll be leaving with or without her, so she had better be ready. Iris merely just gives him another tongue as Paul walks out the door. From the vantage point that Paul has, he can see the beach clear from the Pokemon Center, so he begins to walk. While the trek there really doesn't have anything of significance happen, for some reason the black stone continues to pulsate. Zekrom is uneasy and Paul doesn't understand why. However, since there's no immediate immediate danger, he just can do nothing but move on to his gym battle. It's very quickly that he finds himself on the beach looking for the spot that Nurse Joy told him about, which he happens to find rather easily. However, when he approaches the battlefield, there's no one here. It sits really just on the open sea, and the only thing that could really define it as a battlefield for a gym is the fact that it has a bit of the water fenced off by a pier and some fencing down below to kind of separate it from the open ocean. However, it's not really much for a gym, Paul thinks to himself. As a matter of fact, it's one of the laziest looking gyms that he's ever seen, and the fact that there's no leader in sight really leads him to question if this is actually a Pokemon gym at all. However, his thoughts are interrupted when someone pops out of the water onto the pier. Hey bro, are you here for a gym battle by any chance? Paul is a bit put off by this bronzed, spandex-clad individual. Yes, I am. Have you seen the leader? I would like to get this underway as soon as possible. Wow, straight to the point, he says. Well, I'm Marlin, and I happen to be the leader of this here gym, which is exactly what Paul was afraid he would say. By the way, and what's yours? Paul responds in kind with his own name, asking if they can get started. He really is in quite the hurry. Wow, dude, I was really hoping we could just vibe and take a chill pill. You know, enjoy the surrounding and the up-and-coming battle. But if you're in that much of a hurry, I guess we can get started. You can take your position over there, while I'll take this one. Paul does as he's told, as he wants to get this battle underway, but he seems to realize that the leader has forgotten something about this battle. So, Marlin, was it? How many Pokemon are we going to be using here? Oh, right. Well, I guess, how does a 2-on-2 sound? After all, some of my Pokemon are kind of wore out. We've been out fishing and just enjoying the day too much, so I don't think they're really up for battling. Paul turns to see a giant Wailord and some other water Pokemon just offshore. Fine, a 2-on-2 will suffice. Will these be normal rules? Oh, right, yeah. You're allowed substitutions, but I can't. And also, the battle will end when one side is out of both Pokemon. So, are you ready to get started, little man? A bit irritated on how this interaction is starting to go, Paul confirms that he is ready. However, there doesn't happen to be a referee available. To which Marlin says, yeah, I kinda gave him the day off, considering it was a slow day. But you know what? That'll be alright. I'll just take care of it and make the calls. That is, if it's alright with you. Fine, whatever, Paul says. Let's just get this battle started. Very well, little dude. Mantine, you're up, little bro. Marlin throws his first ball, revealing that his Pokemon is indeed Mantine. And this all but confirms what Paul's suspicion was in the beginning, considering this battlefield was set on the ocean. Marlin is a water-type trainer. However, he doesn't want to make it easy on himself. He could use Electivire and wipe the floor with this guy, especially with the Black Stone. However, he doesn't want to use it at this current time, considering Zekrom seems to be super uneasy. So he decides to go with one of his newly evolved Pokemon. Seismitoad, stand by for battle. The water ground type bursts from the ball, hitting one of the platforms ready for its trainer command. Marlin compliments Paul on his water type, telling him that it looks really strong, so this should be a good water Pokemon battle. However, we all know Paul, and he's not much for the talkative type, especially when he's in battles. He just tells Marlin to start the battle, to which the gym leader obliges, giving Paul the first move. Well, Paul's not going to wait around to find out exactly what this Mantine can do, so he orders Seismitoad into the water to even the playing field, followed by a sludge wave that the toad shoots from its mouth, heading straight for Mantine. Marlin realizes that this is a good attack, and if it does hit, he could be in some trouble. However, his Mantine has just the right counter for this type of situation, ordering a Psybeam and using it as a shield to fend off the poison type move, basically nullifying it. That was a good choice, but you're in my element, and you're going to have to do better than that, Marlin says, as he orders Mantine to dive. Paul won't let Marlin get the surprise on him, so he orders Seismitoad to do the same. However, to add a little boost to its dive, he tells the toad to grab onto the bottom of the platforms and use it as a launching pad to push itself through the water. This allows Seismitoad to catch up with Mantine rather quickly, hitting it with an icy wind at the command of Paul. This ends up freezing one of its fins in the water. However, Marlin doesn't seem to be phased, as he's just going with the flow of the battle by using the momentum that Seismitoad had to counter with a Seed Bomb that connects with Seismitoad, driving it up out of the water back onto one of the platforms. While that wasn't enough to end Paul's water type, it was a serious hit, as that was a ×4 weakness. Now that he has a little bit more information on this thing, Paul decides to recall Seismitoad. Then he declares, Cofferegus, stand by for battle. The ghost type emerges from the ball, taking to the platform, steadying itself, waiting for Paul's command. So, a ghost type is it? Well, not to worry. We can still handle this. Now, Mantine, use Air Slash. The water type bursts from beneath the waves, slicing through the air with its fins, sending the attack in the direction of the ghost type. However, Paul doesn't flinch at this command, ordering his Pokemon to use Calm Mind to up its special attack and defense. Cofferegus just takes the hit as it tightens its defenses and increases its focus. However, Mantine dives back beneath the waves as Paul calls for another Calm Mind. Marlin realizes what Paul is up to, and he can't let this get out of of control, so he decides to go for a big play, ordering Mantine back out of the water to use a hydro pump. The high pressure water type move hits Cofferigus, but the damage is minimal, allowing Paul to call for a third Calm Mind. This has gotten Marlin to sweat a little bit, as that once calm exterior is starting to give way to a little bit of nervousness, to which Paul notices and comments on, telling Marlin, "What, I thought you were just going to go with the flow of the battle." Well, it doesn't work that well when the flow is no longer in your control. Isn't that right, Cofferigus? This is where Marlin tries to make his big play, telling Mantine to jump out of the water again with another hydro pump. However, this time, Paul is ready to go on the offensive, as he orders a will-o-wisp that blinds the water type as it is enveloped with the burn. Quickly, it's back into the water again, trying to soothe whatever damage that it has from that will-o-wisp. It's at this point that the battle is completely flipped, and Marlin knows it. However, he can't change Pokemon, so he has no choice but to push forward, ordering an air slash. Mantine is forced to surface one more. However, this brings doom for the water type, as at Paul's command, Cofferigus uses its most powerful move that's been upped by the status condition that Mantine has and the Calm Minds that it used on itself, as Hex takes control of it and drives it into the platform below, ending the battle. Marlin's impressed. He didn't think that Paul would be able to take control like that. He is quite the tactician. Recalling his Mantine, he compliments Paul on his decision to swap Pokemon mid-battle. It allowed him to really take control. However, Marlin's last Pokemon won't be knocked out as easily as this one was, as he declares, "Jellicent, go!" The ghastly jellyfish hits the water just floating on the surface, calm, cool, and collected, waiting for its trainer's command. Paul knows this Pokemon all too well from his previous battles with Trip. He knows that it's a ghost type, and this could be a dangerous matchup for his Cofferigus. However, he doesn't want to recall it. The stat buffs that he has right now are way too much in his favor for him to even consider that. So he waits for Marlin, the referee/gym leader, to call the start of this next round, to which he does almost immediately. However, as the loser of the last match, Marlin takes their first move, calling for a Scold. While this normally would be a dangerous move, due to the stat buffs that Cofferigus has, Paul isn't really worried about it. That is, until its secondary effect kicks in, as it causes a burn on his ghost type. Well then, it looks like we're even for that last match, Marlin says. However, Paul doesn't respond to anything, just asking his ghost if it can still battle. Cofferigus nods, readying itself for the next command, to which Paul doesn't hesitate, because he has one move that could end this in his favor right now, calling for a Destiny Bond. Smart, Marlin says. However, that's not going to work, as he orders Jellicent to dive, avoiding the move, creating an opening for it, to which the gym leader gladly uses, as he calls for his own Hex. While this normally wouldn't be an issue for Paul's current state, things are just not lined up for his Cofferigus. Its burn, plus its type weakness, and the stab that Jellicent's going to get from this is going to make things extremely dangerous for it, and Paul can do nothing except watch as his ghost type falls to the same move that he used to win his last battle with. Recalling Cofferigus, Paul considers his options, which at this point is only one, Seismitoad. However, how will he use it to beat this tank of a Pokemon? He can tell that Marlin's is far better trained than what Tripp's was. He knows how to use the ghost type into this Pokemon, but he can't wait for much longer, as Marlin tells him if he doesn't make his choice, he'll be disqualified. After all, Marlin is the referee. Seismitoad, stand by for battle, Paul declares. The Toad hits the platform, ready for its next round, to which Paul wastes no time, calling for an Icy Wind. However, Marlin simply counters by ordering Jellicent to dive once more, avoiding the attack. Knowing that he's going to have to take this battle in the water, Paul orders Seismitoad in, to which the jellyfish is lying in wait for Seismitoad to enter, as Marlin gives a command for a Scald. Paul quickly counters this with the Hydro Pump, which is exactly what Marlin wanted, as Paul finds out the hard way what Jellicent's ability is, Water Absorb, which quickly heals it from any real fatigue that it may have had. Great, one of my moves is completely unusable, Paul thinks to himself, while Marlin just cackles. You see, I told you that my Jellicent wouldn't go down that easy, so how are you going to get yourself out of this one? While it's a bit risky, Paul's going to have to invoke his inner Ash here, so he orders Seismitoad to use a Mud Shot, but not to aim it directly at Jellicent. Instead, use it to cloud the water. Quickly, the battlefield becomes murky, hiding Seismitoad and allowing Paul to enact his plan. Marlin's not quite sure what Paul is up to, however, he needs to clear this muck out of the way if he plans to beat his opponent, so he starts ordering Scalds, which Jellicent fires, trying to clear the murkiness of the water with the pressure from behind the attack. This allows Seismitoad to move freely through the water, as not only is it unseen, but its ability to feel tremors in the ground is coming into play here. You see, mud is still ground, and the murkiness of the water, even however thin that the sand is still something that Seismitoad can feel. This is allowing it to pinpoint Jellicent right to the spot to where it is, and Paul uses this to his advantage, advantage as his toad creeps up behind Jellicent, landing a sludge wave at point blank range. This hits for massive damage, allowing Seismitoad to get the added effect of poison on the tank. Then, as quickly as it attacked, it disappears back into the fog of the mud. Marlin quickly orders the Hex to try and capture Seismitoad. However, it's gone before the attack can be completed, and Paul counters it with his next move, another mud shot, upping the murkiness and the thickness of the mud and the water in the surrounding area. This is allowing Seismitoad to move freer and freer, while Jellicent is slowly getting gummed up as it can't really deal with the mud in its way. Marlin is beginning to panic as his fish begins to struggle and it's losing health fast, so he orders a recover to stave off some of the damage from the poison. However, Seismitoad is quickly on the attack with an icy wind from the depths that causes some damage and manages to drop the speed of Jellicent just a little bit. What follows is Paul and his tactician skills of battling as he surgically dismantles Jellicent one move at a time with Seismitoad until the jellyfish just floats to the surface, swirls in its eyes, unable to battle. Marlin has no choice but to declare Paul the winner, presenting him with the wave badge. "You're a really good trainer," he says. "I'm glad I had a chance to battle you today, but if you don't mind, I'm gonna get back to fishing with my Pokemon. I kinda need a little bit of a break after using my brain so much in that battle." Marlin then dives into the water to go fish with the Pokemon that had been waiting so patiently throughout the battle. Paul really is unsure on how to handle the oddity, but he has what he came for, his 7th badge. So with that, he departs from this gym back to the Pokemon Center, and he decides to take the longer route back to enjoy the views, kind of taking Marlin's advice to just go with the flow for once. However, this may come to cost Paul, as when he finally arrives back at the Pokemon Center, it's pure pandemonium. Everyone is running around in chaos. Things are destroyed, tables tipped over, and machines sparking as Iris sees her friend approaching him, telling Paul that they have a problem. Team Rocket broke in. They stole Meloetta, and this is where we are going to leave things for right now. So tell me, how do you feel about this part so far? We're gearing up for the final confrontation between Paul and Giovanni, so I hope you're excited for that. Is Paul going to be able to use the powers of Electivire and the Black Stone to overcome Giovanni with his reveal glass? And how did you feel about the battle between Paul and Marlin? Honestly, with that one, I kind of felt like Paul was going to have that no matter what the situation was, as even though Marlin is depicted kind of as a strong gym leader, I feel like he's just too laid back for Paul not to be able to handle. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and comments down below. And that's all we had for today's video. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to watch all the way to the end, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. If you guys really enjoy my content, consider following me on some of my other platforms like Discord, where you can get to know other people who are interested in what ifs, or on Twitter, where I post sometimes behind the scenes updates. Or if you want to help the channel grow a little bit extra, why don't you consider donating like the people right here have, as whatever you could offer could help us get to a larger audience by helping us get new videos done, or some of the projects that we've been working. Custom art is getting kind of expensive, so we want to make sure that we have the funds to do that. But with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I will see you in the next video.